Happy Sunday. I'm Reverend Kathy, and I'm from Unity North Spiritual Center in Coon Rapids, Minnesota. So welcome to our Sunday lesson on November 1st, 2020. If you're new with us, just know that whoever you are, wherever you are on your spiritual path, you're welcome here. We're glad you're with us. Unity always welcomes all people, so also, Unity North is part of a greater worldwide movement. We are the publishers of the Daily Word magazine, and we've been holding 130 years of prayer vigil through Silent Unity, the prayer ministry of the Unity movement. So prayer is the heart and soul of Unity. And if you have any special prayer requests, you can call Silent Unity at 1-800 now pray. I think that's 669-7729. So we have some upcoming events, or I should say an exciting event happening beginning next Sunday on the 8th. We're starting our first virtual Zoom service. And so this is the next best thing to being live, and it will be at 10:30 a.m. And you can go on our website and find the link, or you will be sent one if you're on our mailing list. So we hope you join us for that. I mentioned this last week, and a few people expressed concern because they watched this video on Facebook or YouTube, and that will still be available to you. It may not be quite as early because we can't get it posted until after the service. So it will be a little later in the day on Sunday. But, or you can watch it at your discretion anytime after that. So, and if you just want to see or hear only the lesson, then you can fast forward, certainly. But otherwise, you'll have a whole service with some music too. So we're looking forward to that. And for any other things, check out our website, unitynorthmn.org. And you can also make a donation there too. We're very grateful for all of your gifts and offerings. So to begin, we'll read our daily word as always. I just invite you to sit back and close your eyes if you like or not, but take a deep breath and just center yourself in this time and place. And the word for today is remember. I bless the people whose lives have touched mine. Grandparents, parents, siblings, members of my extended family, teachers, friends, co-workers. Every person I've known has, by his or her example, helped me feel more deeply what it means to be human. Some have encouraged my curiosity. Some have taught me life skills. Some have modeled positive attitudes and behaviors. Some have loved me fully and unselfishly. And some have helped me learn to love, even when loving felt difficult. Today I remember the people whose lives have touched mine. I pause to think kindly of each one as I savor memories of time we spent together, whether we're still in one another's lives, have lost touch, or are separated by death. I know the experiences we have shared continue to enrich our lives and deeply bless us on our spiritual journeys. And from Romans 1:9, I remember you always in my prayers. Well, today's lesson is entitled The Sacred Moment. Let me just get ready here. Centuries ago, in the Punjab of India, there lived a man named Nanak who would later found Sikhism. Nanak, a devoutly religious man, would join the crowd to pray to bow and pray to the west, facing Mecca 5 times a day. And one day when Nanak went out to pray with hundreds of other faithful, he noticed a sharp stone protruding from the ground where he was to bow his head. So Nanak turned then, so his face would be safe when he bowed, the jagged stone now at his feet. Soon, however, a guard came by and said angrily, "You blaspheme God!" Nanak replied, "How is this?" The guard said, "Your feet and not your head are pointing in the direction of God." "Then, sir," Nanak answered, "as you wish. Show me where God is not, and I shall place my feet in that direction." So Nanak learned there is no spot where God is not, as the unity saying goes. God is omnipresent, everywhere present, as in all space and beyond. And God is eternally present, as in all time and beyond. So every moment is a sacred moment. And it's up to us to also be present in the moment, the eternal now. It is in that moment that we discover the presence of God. Henry David Thoreau, the 18th century American philosopher, said, "Now or never. You must live in the present. Launch yourself on every wave. Find eternity in every moment." Well, it is not always easy to see, though, because we can have a tendency to focus so much on time. We may tend to long for or regret the past or fear the future or see it as an escape from a current challenge. This is most poignant for many of us now as the events of the world seem to be spiraling out of control. One can get caught in the web of fear as we face our future together. How can we stay focused in the present rather than jumping ahead, even just a few days? And personally, we have universal issues we fear. Having money troubles or not enough retirement, medical insurance, or having concerns about jobs, health, relationships, and on it goes. Now we have a concern about a world virus, about global warming. When we become too focused on the past or too focused on the future, we are asleep to the sacredness of this moment, here and now. Time is an issue. People generally rush around, speeding off to their next appointment, trying to catch up with their lives. And yet this time of being home more can allow many of us to slow down and get into the present moment. Though others may be still doing this speed thing with their work at home. But we're invited to slow down and notice the moment. P.J. O'Rourke said, "You know your children are growing up when they stop asking you where they came from and refuse to tell you where they're going. And by the time we realize our parents were right, we have children who think we are wrong." How do we catch up? How do we pause and take a breath? The time to relax is when we do not have time for it. God is found in the present moment. Do you remember the story of Lot's wife in Scripture? Certainly you've all read the Bible, right? Those stories are vivid in your minds, correct? Well, I'll refresh your memories just in case. So in the book of Genesis, chapter 19, the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah were to be destroyed because it was said there were no good or righteous people left in those corrupt cities. And God told Lot, the nephew of Abraham, "Save yourself and your family." So when morning dawned, the angels urged Lot, saying, "Arise, take your wife and your 2 daughters who are here, lest you be consumed in the punishment of the city." But he lingered. So the angels seized him and his wife and his 2 daughters by the hand, and when they had brought them forth, they said, "Flee for your life. Do not look back or stop anywhere in the valley. Flee to the hills, lest you be consumed." Well, then the Lord rained on Sodom and Gomorrah, bringing brimstone and fire out of heaven, and he overthrew those cities and all the valley and all the inhabitants of the cities and what grew on the ground. But Lot's wife looked back, and she became a pillar of salt. Well, in Unity, we teach that God is not a vengeful God. God is love. And the destruction of cities has to do with the power of God through nature. Lot and his family had inner guidance to leave. And on a more metaphysical level, we teach that the city represents a state of consciousness within us that is about to be overthrown and transformed. However, Lot's wife, the feeling, emotional nature within us, tends to look back to the past, to circle back into the negativity or into the memories. And when we do that, we become a pillar of salt. This is the crystallization of thought forms. We become stuck in the old consciousness, bound and imprisoned by clinging to the past. But when we keep focused on the now, while looking forward with anticipation, we let go of those shackles which bind us to the past. And sometimes we get so caught up in the future, we wonder about the hereafter. We wander into a room and wonder, now, what was I here after? I forgot the point I was making with that. But looking back in the past can keep us bound, while a vision of the future becomes like a guiding star. However, if we become lost in the future, we forget to grow where we are planted in this sacred moment. Our talents and our energies count. Our spiritual presence and our love count. Let us stay centered and do all that we can in the present time and space while holding a positive vision of the future to guide us. Then we stay in touch with the sacred moment, which is now. According to Frederick and Marianne Broussard in their book Spiritual Literacy, searches for the sacred within the present moment are part of an honorable and diverse tradition. Many primal and goddess religions invest nature and the body with spiritual meaning and value as we stop to pay attention. Celtic Christians sought to glorify God through the simple moments of their household duties, work in the fields and singing. They invited God to join them in their daily deeds, believing anywhere and any time could become the place for a holy encounter. Within the Christian monastic traditions, everyday acts are hallowed and considered to be important. Judaism emphasizes taking ordinary experiences and making them holy. Islam urges believers to look for signs of God's activity in everything going on around them. Hinduism encourages recognizing manifestations of the divine in an enlightened person, a cow, a plant, or even a small object. Buddhist masters the world over have helped practitioners regard the routines of daily life, from walking to cooking, as ways to awaken in the now moment. "Where shall I look for enlightenment?" the disciple asked. "Here," the elder said. "When will it happen?" the disciple asked. "It's happening right now," the elder answered. "Then why don't I experience it?" "Because you do not look," the elder said. "But what should I look for?" "Nothing, just look." "But at what?" "At anything your eyes light upon," the elder answered. "But must I look in a special kind of way?" "No, the ordinary will do." "But don't I always look the ordinary way?" "No, you don't." "But why ever not?" And the elder said, because look, you must be here. You are mostly somewhere else. You know, we can learn to be spontaneous in the moment. But the important thing is being here now is the spiritual practice of being present. We can ask ourselves some basic questions. 1, am I being present to myself? 2, am I being present to others? 3, am I being present to in my environment? And 4, am I being present to God? Being present is being awake and giving one's full attention in the moment, seeing the sacred. We can all say no to these 4 questions because certainly we are not present all of the time. We can stop and remember there is no spot where God is not, and there is no time so sublime as right now. So 1, am I being present to myself? Am I paying attention to all of me? My body, my soul, my spirit? Am I listening to what my body is trying to say to me about what it needs? Am I listening to my soul and what it needs? To what I am being, to what I'm saying, feeling, and doing? Am I listening to my spirit, to that divine presence guiding me? Episcopal priest Robert Capon writes, we spend a long time wishing we were elsewhere and otherwise. We're like the character in the movie Postcards from the Edge, who sends a card home from vacation saying, having a wonderful time, wish I were here. Well, in being present with ourselves, we can pause in the moment and become aware of our heart's desires and our inner guidance for the very next step. You know, one year at the Unity National Conference, the keynote speaker was an amazing man named DeWitt Jones. And you may have heard his story, but he was a filmmaker and photographer for National Geographic. He shared with us how he got the job. And he had some college friends, and he and his friends did some visioning one night and decided they wanted to kayak down this wild river in Japan and film the experience. So DeWitt wrote a proposal to National Geographic. To his great surprise, they called him on a Friday and told him to be at their office on the East Coast on Tuesday and to bring a sample of his work. Well, of course he had nothing. He was a college kid with an idea. So he rushed down to the inner city and made an amateur video and got it developed just before he hopped on the plane. And when he got to the meeting and they saw his video, they said, well, we'll tell you what. You can take the trip and we'll send our crew along to film it. And DeWitt Jones seized the moment. At 23, he stood up in this meeting and he said, no, if I don't film it, it doesn't happen. Then he went home completely and utterly depressed because he'd blown his big chance. So he wrote a letter to the president of National Geographic and shared his vision and told what had happened. And the man was so impressed with his passion, he gave him the job. DeWitt Jones spent the next 20 years working for a magazine with the mission to look for what is right in the world. And to do that by capturing those places and moments on film. Wow. In being present with ourselves, we pause in the moment and become aware of our heart's desire and our guidance. 2, am I being present to others? Well, have you noticed in conversation how often we only partially listen? We are sometimes formulating our pearls of wisdom before the other person is even finished. Brian Biro tells of a time he was asked to replace the vice president general manager of a franchise company in the personal development industry. And one of his key assistants was having a very hard time with the change. She'd been very loyal to his predecessor and was very disappointed he was no longer with the company. Brian heard she was deeply concerned that the organization would suffer with an upstart like Brian thrust into the leadership position. Well, he very much wanted to set the relationship on a positive track because he knew she was exceptionally talented and invaluable to the organization. But he could not get through her resistance. Finally, he asked if they could get together and talk. He told her she was important to the organization and to him, and that his purpose in asking her to get together was so that he could listen to her, because he wanted to know more about her since everyone held her in such high regard. Then he asked her if she'd be willing to try a method of communicating that he and his wife would sometimes use from time to time. So for 10 minutes or so, she would say whatever she wanted to say without any interruption. His whole purpose would be to listen and to be completely present for her. When she finished, he would have his turn. So she started slowly, but soon the floodgates opened, just opened. He said, for the next hour, I listened to her hopes, her fears, her frustrations, and her delights. I did not say a word. I simply listened without formulating what I would say in response. And when she finished, she was bright and vibrant. Somehow my listening had communicated how much I truly cared, far more clearly than any words I could have spoken. When it was my turn to speak, she listened with equal intensity. Because I had listened to her, she wanted to listen to me. We left with an entirely new relationship based on mutual respect and genuine eagerness to work together toward common goals. And the relationship continued to grow through the years. Seeking to be fully present made all the difference. You know, I highly recommend that example he just gave in any relationship, to take the time and do that. And during this important time in our country, let us be especially present with one another, really listening to the other person, sharing concerns or whatever it is. Let's take that time. Number 3, we can ask ourselves, am I present to my environment? Alan Epstein said, spend time in a flower garden. If the day is warm and sunny, savor the rays. Imagine how the flowers must feel at this very moment. Look closely at the different shapes and colors, at the way the blossoms grow. Now use your sense of smell to take in the stunning array of fragrance, all of which can be divinely overpowering. Keep an eye out for the animals that live in the garden, the birds and squirrels, the insects that fly, the ones that crawl. Notice how intently they go about their business. Close your eyes, listen to the sounds of the garden, the chirping and humming, the movement of the stems and leaves in the mild breeze. And you get a sense of what it is to really take time in the moment. See if you can transcend your individual senses and feel the presence of the garden inside you. Try to become just another flower at home in the garden, as if you were in your own house or place of worship. Whether it's a garden, whether you're out in the snow, whatever it is, take the time. I remember a time in my life when I experienced the complete and utter timelessness of being in the moment. I was in my 20s, and I traveled through Mexico with a friend. And at one point, she and I ended up outside of a small village north of Acapulco on the coast, Pie de la Cuesta. And several other travelers we had met joined us, and we found open huts with hammocks strung where we stayed for 2 weeks. We got up with the sun. We bathed in the small lagoon across the road. We watched the dolphins swim every morning. We ate fruit that a woman sold on the beach. We had fried fish in another hut in the evening. We had no watches or clocks, and we fell into the rhythm of nature. It is an experience I have revisited over and over in my mind. Never have I been so in the present moment and in the beauty of the moment. Let us become present to our environment. There's almost too much beauty to take in. It can make us wonder in those moments how we could possibly long for more. Number 3, we can ask, am I being present to God? Well, God is not separate. God is all of the above. As we honor the sacred moment by becoming present or awake to ourselves, to others, to our environment, we are becoming present to God, the sacred in all space and all time and beyond. In closing, Spanish cellist Pablo Casals said, "Each second we live is a new and unique moment of the universe, a moment that never was before and never will be again." Celebrate the sacred moment. God bless you. And once again, remember our service next week, 10:30 a.m. And also there will be an annual meeting that day at 12:30 p.m. And we'll give you links. Look online or wait for a mailing from us. Check us out online, unitynorthmn.org. Have a wonderful week. God bless you.